All right, here we go. All right, we got some stuff to dive into. Stuff I didn't really get to dive into last night. What's up? I guess no notifications are going out or something. So there was something we came across, some Nancy Grace yesterday. StreamYard. What StreamYard? What? I don't know what you mean. Let me see here. There was something. Let me go look at what it was real quick. All right, we'll throw that up there. Oh, okay. I didn't know what you meant with StreamYard. Here you go. Let's see. Throw that out there. There's like a Nancy Grace or something. I'll still probably get on pool later. Okay. Let me see here. There was something. Let me see. Oh, Law and Crime Network. And then Profiling Evil. Hey, what's up?
Hello.
Hey, what's up? Let's see here.
Not much.
Turn that music down.
It was too hard to keep up with the games.
I know that bingo's intense. It was hard to
It is.
and watch chat and focus or even look for a bingo. I was like, damn.
I was watching your cards for you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that shit was tough. Let me see here. There's a new Crime Talk. But I kind of want to check out this Law and Crime Network video, Life Under the Radar, walking in the footsteps of Idaho students. That might not be too bad if people end up missing that one. This won't be as long as an episode, though. Let me see. And put that up there. Uh-oh, I can hear me. And all right, I got that switched. And speaking of, since they're exhuming the casket of Stephen Smith, I thought I'd look up an article to see exactly what happens in the timeline. So
Yeah.
maybe there might be, some kind of, we can kind of see like maybe what they can actually kind of investigate or whatever. Probably just bones, I'd imagine, but I don't know. I'm not sure. So I saved that article to
I
go into it some other time.
I watched Crime Talk today, and it's up to $40,000 now.
Yeah, it was up to 40,000 last night. It was because we looked into it again at the end of the show, and yeah, it was like 40 some $1,000. It's like, damn, it jumped up like 14,000 or something in an evening.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, it
awesome.
was crazy. After it got on court TV, I think it was. After it got on court TV, it ballooned up from like I can't remember what the numbers were. Yeah, it was crazy. All right, so I want to see. This is something about walking in the footsteps of the student murder suspect. Law and crime. Make sure I put that in the. All right, there we go. What was it? Muted? What?
It's a story that's gripped the nation. 4 college students brutally stabbed to death in their off-campus Idaho home. For weeks, no suspects, no arrests, and no murder weapon. Until
detectives arrested 28-year-old Brian Christopher Kohlberger in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, on a warrant for murder of Ethan, Zana, Madison, and Kaylee.
On December 30th, 2022, officials announced the arrest of suspect Brian Kohlberger, the man they say is responsible for the murders of University of Idaho students Madison Mogen, Kaylee Gonzalez, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle. Weeks before, on November 13th, their bodies were found stabbed to death on the upper 2 floors of their off-campus home.
I'm sure there's statistics out there of, many people pass by a murderer, many people know a murderer. Well, I don't. It's very concerning, and it's very eerie and creepy as well.
It's crazy because literally days after these murders happened, he brought it up when I saw him in the hallway.
To get inside the mind of accused killer Brian Kohlberger, Law and Crime Network began a weeks-long investigation into his past, teaming up with local Pennsylvania news outlet LehighValleyLive.com to walk in the footsteps of the highly educated murder suspect before he moved across the country to Washington.
It's almost too good to be true, unless this guy was miraculously set up, which is like a 1 in a billion chance. No one cares enough about Brian Kohlberger to set him up.
Our investigation began thousands of miles from the Moscow, Idaho crime scene in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania, where Kohlberger grew up.
That's not something that you really expect for a national story to come back to our area.
The Kohlberger family home in Albrightsville, safely guarded behind the gates of the Indian Mountain Lake development, sits only about 10 minutes away from Pleasant Valley High School, where Kohlberger graduated in 2013. But it was about an hour south in Pennsylvania's Lehigh Valley, where he spent the bulk of his 20s.
DeSales is kind of its own sort of campus outside of Bethlehem in a area surrounded by a lot of cornfields and small neighborhoods.
Down a winding tree-lined road on the outskirts of the valley is DeSales University, a private Catholic school with less than 5,000 total students.
It's a small school. It's not like it's a Penn State or Pitt or a Temple. It's a very small school in a cornfield. So if you go to the people within your study, and pretty much everyone that goes to the school, and he was not known.
It's here at
Good evening,
DeSales
ATS.
University where Koberger really got his feet wet in the study of criminology. He received both his undergraduate and graduate degrees here, and DeSales officials tell me he studied in this very building.
Inside the walls of Dooling Hall, then undergraduate Josh Ferraro met psychology major Brian Koberger.
At that time, I would have never said, oh yeah, that guy would do something like this. He may have been a little odd or a little off, but like other than that, you'd never expect someone to be allegedly part of a quadruple homicide ever.
Ferraro, who graduated from DeSales with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice, is a self-proclaimed true crime junkie.
I was following it day one because who hears about 4 college students that are unfortunately murdered, and how do you not want to keep up with that? So I got on TikTok, YouTube, Google, and I vigorously kept up with this case.
It came as a surprise then when Ferraro's one-time classmate was charged in the murders.
And that's why it's like shocking to me, because this guy was such a normal dude, average Joe type person. You would never, like, you don't know what's under people's skin. God forbid if he didn't do it, great. But all the signs point to that he did.
Huh.
After news broke of co-arrest, Ferraro recorded his reaction and posted it on social media.
I went to college with Brian Koberger. I've been looking at his picture all day. I've been saying the name all day in my head. And I was like, I know this guy. I know this guy. And then he went to DeSales University. I'm like, I know I had a class with him. I know it. The name sounds so familiar.
Back in 2018, Ferraro teamed up with Koberger for a project on Daphnia, or water fleas. He says they worked together for an entire semester.
He was new, and I said, hey, buddy, do you want to be my lab partner? And that's pretty much what was left, so I took him. And it ended up working out very well.
As a commuter student, Koberger came and went from campus during his undergraduate psychology studies. Ferraro says he kept to himself and didn't show any outward signs of something more menacing.
It's not always the creepy guy with glasses and oily hair and creeping around the corner. It's sometimes just that average Joe that on the inside, you have no idea what he looks like. But on the outside, he may just seem like a normal person, much like Brian Koberger did.
Ferraro instead theorizes Koberger's alleged drive to kill stems from something on the inside.
I really don't think that there's too many outward telltale signs of someone committing a crime. I feel like it's all mostly internal, which goes back to the blank slate theory and basically how you're raised, what you're exposed to as a child, what your genetics are. That would be predisposition. So like some things you're predisposed to do in life, that's just unfortunate. Your genetics dictate you will be one way. However, the blank slate theory says that dependent on your situation and who you grew up with, what kind of friends you have, how many friends you have, do you have a lover, all these things in combination kind of make you who you are. So it's a combination of both, in my opinion. I'm not a professional. You got to ask Catherine Ramsland.
As a graduate student at Koberger majored in criminal justice. That means both he and Ferraro studied under legendary forensic psychologist Dr. Catherine Ramsland. We reached out to Ramsland for this story and were told via email, quote, I'm making no statements about Brian Koberger and will not be interviewed for any stories that feature him. But months before Koberger's arrest, Ramsland appeared on Law and Crime Network's podcast, Cocktails and Cocktails.
Have I come face to face with psychopaths? Absolutely. The coldness, the lack of remorse, definitely. So some people call that evil, but we are finding that it might very well be a brain disorder.
In the interview given just 7 months before the University of Idaho murders, Ramsland explained the workings of a psychopath's mind.
The brains of what we call primary psychopaths, who seem to be born with this brain disconnect, are definitely different. And it allows them to be better predators if that's what they choose to be. Not all psychopaths are criminals, not all psychopaths are murderers, but if they choose that, it allows them to be very effective at it because they really don't have any remorse over what they're doing. And they really can be very calculated. They tend to be very reward driven.
But according to forensic psychologist Dr. John Delatorre, we can't yet label Kohberger as a psychopath or even a serial killer.
Even if he was a serial, even if he does have that, what actually happened was that he was a mass killer, right? That because there was 3+, sometimes it's 4+, depending on what law enforcement agency that you ask, whoever did this should actually be considered a mass killer. But that doesn't take away from the possibility that they are also a serial killer.
We can't even confirm Ferraro's blank slate theory.
The science has suggested that when we were born, we actually do have coding, right? We do have ways in which we are going to be perceiving the world around us. Now, of course, external influences change who we are and how we're going to respond to those things. But we're not necessarily a blank slate.
But according to Ramsland, a motive may be hard to pin down.
So they have a variety of motives, but their personalities tend to have that rigidity and that inability to go with life's hard knocks and to believe that they're entitled to more and that they need to punish people for them not getting what they think they deserve.
Ferraro has his own theory about a motive.
I don't see this as this grandiose thing where he was trying to get away with it. I think he had this compulsion, this need, this necessity to do it. And he's probably always wanted to do it and finally said, F it, I'm going to do it.
At least part of Ferraro's theory seems to be accurate. Kohberger had no run-ins with the law while in the Lehigh Valley.
We had no indication he was here at all. We had no indication he had any interaction with law enforcement at all.
After news broke of his arrest, Northampton County District Attorney Terry Houck says his team reviewed area cold cases for a possible link to Kohberger.
When you have somebody that might have serial attached to their name, you just want to make a check to see if there's any connection since he had contact with the county, and there was none here in Northampton County.
Similar investigations were also conducted in neighboring Lehigh County. We reached out to District Attorney Jim Martin, who declined an interview. But while sitting down with Houck, we learned news of Kohberger's arrest came as a shock for the community.
Obviously, it's the reaction that everybody has. It's us, and people are posting Facebook pictures of him on campus, on some campus close by or something like that.
One such campus is Northampton Community College, the dean's list, and later received an Associate of Arts and Psychology degree in 2018, before his time at DeSales.
Northampton County Community College is a beautiful school, and it's a lot of, it's a well-respected academic institution, and I would call it a pillar in the community, and there's a lot of kids who go there.
Kohberger himself commuted about 50 miles from Albrightsville to the college's Bethlehem campus while studying for his degree. Law and Crime Network reached out to NCC for this story to learn more about Kohberger's time at the school. The senior director of marketing and communications replied in part, quote, "This isn't something we'd like to pursue at the moment, and we'll be in touch should anything change. But in an area filled with college-age students, it's possible Kohberger flew under the radar altogether."
Would have been indistinguishable from any of the other college students, young adults, recent college graduates or graduate students going around the Lehigh Valley. Even if we had a run-in in a bar, that would not have been anything unusual or even really noteworthy. Not until hindsight.
According to multiple reports, Kohberger frequented the brewery Seven Sirens while he attended college in the area. According to the interviews, Kohberger made multiple women uncomfortable, so much so that a record of his interactions was kept, noting that he made staff concerned about his strange behavior. We reached out to the Seven Sirens owner times and never received a response. But Delatorre says labeling Kohberger as a killer because of these alleged interactions may be a rush to judgment.
They may be engaging in that fundamental attribution error where they're linking all of these things to describe who he is as a person, forgetting that there are many different external influences, that it's certainly possible that all of this stuff, that he was being reactionary. And I think that that's also part of, if he did do this, that reactionary aspect is kind of maybe what compelled him to engage in this particular act.
But could Kohberger's connection to criminal justice have played a role in the murders?
The course that I took that stands out is psychological sleuthing, where you basically enter the mind of a killer. She would give you sheets, and basically the sheets would denote and detail a crime. However, you wouldn't know who did what per se or where this was, but you'd have to, it was a group thing, so you'd get partnered up or in groups, and you would go through these activities and basically come up with a theory or a thesis and then challenge it to Dr. Ramsland.
DeSales boasts a robust criminal justice program, promoting hands-on training and courses taught by renowned professors.
They have an entire house, they call it the crime scene house, that is used for simulations for crime scene investigation or collecting evidence or crime scene photography or responding to other emergencies.
But according to court documents, Kohberger's criminal justice studies were important enough for detectives to investigate, recovering a criminal psychology book and DeSales University documents from his parents' home when a search warrant was executed.
The Master of Arts in Criminal Justice is awarded to Carlina Kemery. Jenna Cook. Brian Kohberger.
We reached out to Kohberger's entire criminal justice graduating class for this story, but his classmates either didn't reply or denied our request for an interview. One classmate told us via text that DeSales University, quote, sent a general communication that suggested everything go through the university, as to be respectful of the ongoing situation. The Associate Vice President of Marketing and Communications told us via phone the school did not discourage students to speak with the media, but that she was available to assist in media requests on a case-by-case basis. The school's statement via email recapped Kohberger's majors, the years he completed each program, and confirmed he was always a commuter student.
DeSales is just such a close-knit and heartfelt community. Like I said, everybody knows each other. And the fact that really no one knows about this guy, he went in and out.
It's a common theme in Kohberger's past, leaving behind little clues about his isolated personality. Multiple people who knew Kohberger tell us he was strange, but hardly memorable.
He was kind of awkward, but I feel like you can't just write someone off as being crazy just because they're a little awkward, you know?
Just months after his Kohberger moved across Washington, PhD criminal justice at Washington State University.
It's crazy because literally days after these murders happened, he brought it up when I saw him in the hallway.
Just across the hall from her Pullman, Washington apartment lives Christian Martinez. He says Kohberger's dad approached him early on.
The dad was wanting to introduce me to Brian, and he said something. I don't remember the exact word he used to describe him, but it was something that was he has a hard time making friends, or he's kind of shy, or something like that.
Martinez tells us Kohberger kept up with the murders and even brought them up as a topic of conversation.
He was like, "Oh, did you hear about these murders that happened?" And it was so short after they actually happened. There was barely any news articles out, so there wasn't much that I could have read. So I was like, "Yeah, man, that's crazy. Yeah, of course I've heard about him." He was like, "Yeah, it seems like they don't have any leads." And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, there's not much about it, you know. There's nothing. I have no details really to say." But yeah, and then he's like, "Yeah, it seems like they think it was a crime of passion." Those were the two things he said, was that they had no leads and they think it was a crime of passion.
On top of that, Kohberger may have had a fascination with death or killing.
One thing that stuck out was it was kind of on the subject of what it would take to take someone's life. It was kind of he was trying to see my perspective on taking someone's life.
After the pair were first introduced last summer, Martinez invited Kohberger to a pool party, and they saw each other occasionally after that. At that same party, Zach Cartwright met Kohberger for the first time.
He did seem pretty kind of just socially awkward and kind of hard to carry a conversation with, if I remember correctly. But besides that, he mainly just stood to the side and was really observant, and so much so that based on that one small interaction, he knew exactly who I was maybe a month or so later when I saw him on that hike.
When they crossed paths again, Cartwright says it was strange how quickly Koberger recognized him.
It was really weird how he approached me and the people that I was with, because he acted kind of like we were best friends, or it was like a reunion or something, and he was really excited to see us. And I had no idea really who he was right at that second.
Those two small interactions proved important enough for Cartwright to be interviewed by the FBI after Koberger's arrest.
I did speak to the FBI at one point. I do believe that they spoke to a lot of people that were at that party. It may be because that was one of his very first times, if not his first time in Moscow.
Martinez and his wife were also interviewed by the FBI. He tells us his wife always felt something was off with the now suspected murderer.
She didn't have a good feeling about him, because every time I would tell her I'm gonna invite Brian, because he didn't have any friends. I was trying to bring him out and maybe meet people he can, relate to. But she was always like, no, please don't. There was just something about him that she didn't like.
In recalling their conversations after Koberger's arrest, some key points stick out.
I guess looking back, it's kind of funny because he was talking about he was talking about genealogy, because I was talking about the 23andMe because my sister had just did all that. And then he brought up something similar in his studies that had to do with being able to catch criminals because of their relatives' DNA, which is, I guess, how he got caught up in his mix.
The probable cause affidavit released after Koberger's arrest revealed a knife sheath was left behind at the crime scene, containing a single source of male DNA. When compared with DNA recovered from the trash at Koberger's parents' home, it proved to be a near perfect match. When the FBI interviewed Martinez, they asked whether he had ever seen Koberger with a similar weapon.
They just asked about if he had a knife on him or anything like that. If I ever noticed him with a knife. I didn't. He never had anything on him like that.
When Thanksgiving approached less than 2 weeks after the murders, Moscow police announced their investigation would continue through the holiday.
I want to assure you, first off, that the loss of Xana, Kaylee, Madison, and Ethan remains the highest priority for the Moscow Police Department. We will continue putting all of our resources into investigating and solving these murders. Investigators are prepared to work through the Thanksgiving holiday to continue their efforts.
As local, state, and federal police continued on in the early stages of the investigation, Koberger texted Martinez on Thanksgiving, reading, quote, "Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family."
It kind of made me feel bad because me and my wife were talking and how I was one of the people that he made friends with. And then it kind of made me feel bad, I don't know. What if it would have made a difference that I had been able to meet up with him the times that I could have? Maybe that would have changed anything if it would have, but I don't know.
According to court documents, investigators believe the murders happened just 11 days before Koberger sent Martinez that Thanksgiving text between 4 and 4:25 a.m. A white suspect vehicle was seen near the home at that time and multiple times after. Investigators later determined it was a 2011 to 2016 Hyundai Elantra. Weeks after the murders, Moscow police put out photos of an Elantra, saying it was a vehicle of interest. The following week, Koberger was behind the wheel of his white Hyundai Elantra when he was pulled over by police.
So you're coming from Washington State University, and you're going where? Oh, you're going to be going to Pennsylvania. Oh, okay.
Koberger was actually stopped twice in Indiana, about 10 minutes apart, as he drove cross-country with his father from Washington to Pennsylvania for his winter break. Both times, he was stopped for following another vehicle too closely. When the Pennsylvania search warrant was executed at Koberger's parents' home, investigators recovered multiple items from the vehicle, including hiking boots, a shovel, goggles, and a wrench. Court documents also show one of the surviving roommates saw the suspect the night of the murders, noting he was 5'10" or taller with bushy eyebrows. Martinez agrees he had a memorable look.
Every time I would talk to him, my wife describes it as a death stare. And it kind of is you make eye contact with people, but you're not constantly just staring at him. He would be constantly staring at me, he's just trying to analyze me. That was a feeling I would get.
After Koberger's arrest in Pennsylvania, he appeared in Monroe County Court on January 3rd. Cameras weren't allowed inside the hearing, but Law and Crime Network was in the courtroom where he waived his right to extradition. He was later flown to Idaho and charged with all 4 murders.
It alleges that the defendant, Brian C. Koberger, on or about November 13th of 2022 in Latah County, state of Idaho, did unlawfully enter a residence located at 1122 King Road, Moscow, with the intent to commit the felony crime of murder.
Right now, Koberger is being held in Latah County Jail in Idaho without bail. As we await his next court appearance in June, questions about his inner psyche remain.
Still so much to learn about who Brian Koberger is, not just as the person alleged to have committed this crime, but just who he is and how he walked through his life. There's still so much to learn that anybody who says that they know who he was, they actually don't. Because my contention is that I don't think he even knew who he was.
Koberger is due back in court in June for a preliminary hearing that's expected to last multiple days. Law and Crime Network will be in Idaho for the hearing, where both sides are expected to call witnesses and present evidence. For the latest developments in the University of Idaho murders, make sure to follow Law and Crime Network's YouTube page. Reporting for Law and Crime Network, I'm Sierra Gillespie.
Man, that was pretty interesting. There's some interesting interviews there too.
Yeah.
While I was listening to that, I actually made Dre a new icon pic, so I sent it to you, Dre. And then
you'll have to tell her how to do it.
Yeah, I can do that. Are you on PC or your phone, Dre? Hey, what's up, Grizz? Are you on PC? Or are you on your phone when you're typing, Dre?
Maybe she stepped away from the phone or whatever. Do you hear me?
Of course I heard you. I'm just waiting to see if she...
Yeah, maybe you muted. She's on her...
No.
She's on her phone.
Okay. Yeah, I was just giving her a second to reply. So all you have to do... crap, because then if I tell her, then it's going to take her from the stream, I think. Take her away from the stream. Yeah, if I try and help you over the stream, then I think it's going to take you away from the stream. Basically, here you might, I don't know, hit the back button, and in the top right corner of your phone, you'll see your D with the purple. You click on that. Here, I'll get my phone here real quick. It's just open, Grizz. So you click top right, you go to your channel, then you hit like the pencil icon, and then you click on your picture, and then that's when you can upload the new icon I sent you. Well, we just listened to some Idaho 4 stuff, interviews. What a video! If anybody would like to rewatch that, I'll put the link in chat. Just kind of hanging out tonight for a little bit.
So is C still on for tomorrow?
Is what?
Is Punk C still on for tomorrow?
Yeah. Let me go to the... Let me see here. 1 second. I'll pull it up. Let me go to her page real quick.
We finally saw our neighbor Jim today. He was at his house next door.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's the first time we've seen him in 2 months.
Oh wow.
His wife had to have a pacemaker put in after everything she's been through.
Oh yeah. How's she doing?
She's doing better. She's actually walking some now, and she's talking better now. She still can't do much with her right arm after the stroke. But
Oh really?
she's doing better.
What's up, SRB? Well, that's good at least. So she can't use her one arm?
Yeah, she can't use her one arm very well.
Mhm.
So when he was at the house today, he has a camera set up where he can see her to make sure she's okay while he's gone.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a new link or if it's the same one. I'm thinking it might be the same one, but let me see here. I guess it's just going to be a hangout.
Is it?
She says she's going to talk about why she started watching YouTube, what case it was, what kind of live and interest she plans on doing, her first true crime case that got her addicted, the first time she saw a ghost, just general chat. And
Oh, that sounds cool.
she said basically whatever.
I get to know her.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
A hangout.
Yeah.
And let me make sure. I think she changed the time. I thought she said 5:15 Eastern. It says 4 because I'm in Central, but I'm not sure. It still says 4 o'clock Central on here.
Okay.
Man, that was some interesting interviews there. Some of it was like the guy that was talking about how he was asking him about murder and stuff, and I don't know. It was interesting though.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to go to that crime talk. See what he's got to say. It's been a while since I even watched some of his. Oh shoot, I won't. Yeah. Oh, I'm thinking about going live tomorrow night. I don't know yet. I did so much last weekend. 9 hours just in the evening shows, not to mention. Oh yeah, I didn't do a morning afternoon show. That's right. I hadn't planned on it. All right, so we'll see what Scott Reich has to say. And I noticed this when I didn't even notice it until a couple nights ago, but when I put in, Delphi too. When I put in timestamps in the description, it puts the timestamp on the actual screen for the ticker thing. So I'm gonna have to keep better notes on my timestamps and then put those every show, no matter what. Maybe just depending on what topic I'm talking about, it'll be from here to here, and then that might be interesting. Yeah, I want to watch this Delphi video here after this crime talk. Justice for Stephen Smith and a whole bunch of other stuff. Is this that crime talk you were talking about, Kid Kitty?
Yeah. It was. I watched it today.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna check this one out.
Who's living with his mother?
Oh, it's the docket. All right, let's skip to the beginning. Let me throw
So
the
the Murdaugh case helped bring justice for Stephen Smith. That's right. For those of you who aren't familiar, Stephen Smith, his body, a South Carolina man who died just a few miles
You
from the
keep slamming
infamous
the desk
Alec
or
Murdaugh
something?
family
Jeez.
home, is set to be exhumed. This is according to his family. Stephen Smith's family announced
does.
that they
Man,
will
that's
exhume
hitting
his
the
body for an
earphone.
independent autopsy after his July 8th, 2015 death. Now, the death received renewed attention during the Alec Murdaugh trial, and it also received some new attention when they searched Moselle. Apparently, the police have not ever said exactly what it was, but they found evidence that they were going to open up so it was basically closed. Well, Stephen Smith's family announced that they are going to have an independent autopsy done. This independent autopsy comes more than 7 years after Stephen Smith was found dead on Sandy Run Road, just outside of Hampton County, not far from the Moselle estate, where Alex Murdaugh obviously killed his wife and son. At the same time, his death was ruled a hit and run by authorities, but they've reopened the investigation into Smith's death in June of 2021, based upon information uncovered during the investigation into the shooting deaths of Murdaugh's wife, Maggie, and son, Paul. Now, police have never publicly disclosed whether there was a link between Smith's death and the Murdaugh family, but several witnesses have speculated about possible foul play involving Smith's classmate, that's right, Buster Murdaugh, the son of Alec Murdaugh. Smith's mother, Sandy, shared the plans to move forward with the exhuming of the body and the independent autopsy on a GoFundMe page, which had aimed to raise roughly $15,000. As of today, they've raked in more than $40,000. So we'll see how that turns out, if anything new comes from that autopsy. Well, some other Murdaugh news. Moselle, the property where obviously Maggie and Paul met their demise. Well, guess what? It is currently under contract with a buyer, and it's taken about 8 attorneys to work out where the money will go once the closing takes place. An attorney working closely with the sale of the property says the deal is expected to be finalized next week for $3.7 million. The Murdaugh family is obviously named in several civil lawsuits, many stemming from the 2019 fatal boat crash that killed Mallory Beach. And obviously, Paul Murdaugh was facing charges in relation to the crash of the boat at the time. Obviously, he never went to trial, as this case was dismissed once he met his demise. So here's how the money will be broken down according to some court documents. John Marvin Murdaugh, Alec's brother, will use $290,000 to pay the estate's outstanding legal fees. $6,511 will go to Laura Jones, a creditor with a claim against the estate. Buster Murdaugh, that's right, Buster Murdaugh is going to walk away with $530,000. $100,000 will go to attorney Joseph McCulloch, who is representing boat crash victim Connor Cook in a civil suit against Buster. And then the co-receivers will receive $275,000 for the common fund, which will eventually go to more victims. $25,000 will go to the Palmetto State Bank, which has a claim against the estate. And then the remaining funds will go to attorney Mark Tinsley, who is representing 3 of the parties in the boat accident case. So, as oftentimes what takes place, it looks like the attorneys are going to come out with more cash than the victims in the case, because remember, those attorneys are probably taking anywhere from 33 to 35%. Next on the docket, yes, some new arrests in the Microsoft executive case. A new arrest in the shocking murder of the Florida father of 4, Jared Brigden, who was gunned down in front of his toddler more than a year ago. Now, the husband of Brigden's ex-wife has been charged with his slaying. Mario Fernandez, the second husband of Brigden's ex-wife, Shanna Gardner Fernandez, was arrested Thursday morning in Orlando by agents with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives along with local police agencies. Now, Miss Gardner Fernandez remains a key suspect in the killing. A judge actually signed an arrest warrant for Fernandez moments after Henry Tenon, Fernandez's former tenant, pled guilty to fatally shooting Brigden as part of a plea agreement. Now, Tenon has agreed to testify truthfully against those he worked with to murder Jared Brigden. According to prosecutors, Tenon's cooperation has both corroborated evidence collected during the investigation and provided additional evidence against Mario Fernandez Saldana for his role in the planning and execution of Jared's murder. Now, Mr. Tenon was charged 2 months ago with the second-degree murder charge, conspiracy to commit murder, accessory after the fact, and child abuse for his role in the slayings. Yes, looks like they are getting closer one by one. We'll see if the ex-wife is actually going to be charged. Of course, we'll give her and everyone that's charged the presumption of innocence. Josh Duggar rhymes with hugger. We haven't talked about him in a while, but the Federal Bureau of Investigations says that his 12-and-a-half-year prison sentence has been extended for almost 2 additional months. Now, the reality star was convicted of possession of images involving small children back in 2021 and has a release date from the Federal Bureau of Prisons of August of 2032. Now, earlier in the week, the prison records for Duggar indicated that his release was pushed back until August 22nd, 2032. However, the records now cite his release as October 2nd of 2032. The sentence extension comes as Duggar repeatedly remains in solitary confinement, where he was placed after allegedly being caught last month with contraband. What say you is the contraband? Oh, a cell phone. That's right. Guess what? It's called losing your earned or good time credit, ladies and gentlemen. If you can't follow the rules, you don't get to get out early. It's kind of like the kid leaving time out early, isn't it? Anyway, the 19 kids and counting alum has been serving his sentence at the low security federal prison of FCI Seagoville near Dallas, Texas. And for those who aren't familiar with it, a federal jury in Arkansas found Duggar, rhymes with hugger, guilty in December of 2021 related to the receipt of those inappropriate images involving small children. Now, last May, he was sentenced to 151 months in prison, and then he was transferred to the Washington County Jail in his home state of Arkansas to the FCI facility, the Federal Correctional Facility it is. Anyway, Duggar was seeking to reverse his conviction on appeal. During a federal appeals court hearing this past February, Duggar's attorneys argued that the investigators violated his rights by seizing the phone he was using to try to call his lawyer during the search of that ultimately resulted in the search of and discovery of those images. Duggar was arrested in April of 2021 after a Little Rock, Arkansas police detective found inappropriate images and files that were being shared on a computer traced back to Mr. Duggar.
Wow.
Investigators testified that those images depicting the sexual abuse of children were downloaded in 2019 onto a computer at the dealership that Mr. Duggar owned. Prosecutors said that the computer Duggar used had a monitored program on it to report his activities to his wife. Like maybe she knew there was a problem. But the images and video were downloaded after separate software was installed that would allow him to download images without being detected by his wife. Duggar's attorneys argued that what federal agents did is they physically took the phone out of his hand and from that point forward deprived him of the ability to communicate with his legal counsel, as was his constitutional right. Now, the prosecutors counters and said that Mr. Duggar was free to leave the scene and instructed not to speak with agents without an attorney, and he was also with 2 other people whose cell phones weren't seized, indicating that he had an option to speak to a lawyer, even though obviously the officers had appropriately and legally seized his phone at the outset of the search. We'll see how that goes.
Holy
I don't expect a
crap.
whole lot of relief on that case, but you never know what the appellate courts will do. Next on the docket, good cop, bad drug police captain.
I heard the name Duggar before, but I never watched an episode or anything like that. That's crazy shit. What were they on? Like, would they have a reality show or something?
Yeah, they did. I keep forgetting I'm on panel.
Yeah, you
I'm
typed
typing
it.
away.
Wow, that's crazy. Who else is he talking about? Nah. Can leave the rest for everybody else. When did this Microsoft executive thing happen?
A year ago.
A year ago, huh?
Yeah.
I never even heard of that one.
I saw a few things on it a while back.
Executive. A second suspect is now under arrest. Police in Jacksonville Beach, Florida, arrested Mario Fernandez Saldana on Thursday, accusing him of hiring Henry Tenen to murder his wife's ex-husband, Jared Bridegan, in February of 2022. Tenen lived in a property that Fernandez Saldana owned, according to police, and Tenen will plead guilty and cooperate with investigators. In January, Bridegan's widow, Kristen, told News Nation's Ashley Banfield that she was suspicious of her husband's ex-wife and her connection to the killer.
It's a 1,000,001 shot that was a random connection. Shanna and I have not spoken since very soon after Jared's murder.
So does she have something to do
only
with it?
communication is regular emails from
The
me to
ex-wife
her
did.
requesting to see the kids, which either go denied or completely.
What?
The ex-wife had something to do with it, her and her husband.
Her and her new husband?
Yeah.
And they did it in front of one of their fucking kids?
They had another guy do the shooting, but yeah, in front of the 2-year-old toddler.
Wow. What, in front of his... Where did it take place? In his front yard or something?
No, he was leaving the ex-wife's house after picking his daughter up or something.
What, like he was driving or something?
He was driving, and it happened by the rental house. That guy that shot him was renting the house from this guy's ex-wife's husband. Her new husband had a house that he rented to this guy.
The one that did the shooting?
Yes.
Wow.
And it was by his house that he did it.
Wow. I didn't even hear nothing about it.
They ignored.
So this is going to be a case that if you don't know anything about it, you will soon. News Nation legal analyst Jesse Weber is here to help us break this all down. And this, at its core, is a murder for hire case, or at least that is what the authorities here are alleging. So what do you make of the idea that the star witness here is going to be the man who has not yet, but soon will admit that he pulled the trigger, Henry Tenen, saying that he worked on behalf of Mario Fernandez Saldana?
Well, he is the link now between Saldana and Bridegan, right? He is, as you said, the star witness. Unfortunately for the prosecution, you can't pick and choose your witnesses. I say that because as important as he is, and as pivotal as he is to this case, you have to be wondering, what is the defense going to do with him? Because this is now somebody who's going to plead guilty to murder. So now you have a murderer who engaged in this plot, who essentially was the trigger man. Can we believe everything he has to say? Is he the most credible witness that the prosecution is going to put forward? I can see a day where they just tear apart his testimony. And obviously he's testifying and he's providing information and he's bringing Saldana in order to get a more favorable treatment. Plead guilty to second-degree murder, 15 years to life, I believe. And so obviously he has an incentive to benefit the government. Now, the only problem I will say is a lot of the communications and a lot of the connection between Saldana this gentleman is recorded through, checks. There's a payment trail. There's phone communication.
Well, yeah, Jesse, let me take a break here and go into that evidence. I mean, there are 3 signed checks. There are an escalating number of text messages in January, February, and then it trails off in March after this murder was committed. But I have to ask, what else would Tennant's motivation be here? Because the defense is going to have to answer that. Oh, he did it because of this, as opposed to being put up to it. And that would help create reasonable doubt. But is there a theory about that?
Yeah, right. Because why would he just suddenly attack this man who's connected to, his landlord? It makes no sense, right? And so I hear you. The only way I can try to see where they go to a defense is, well, maybe Saldana talked about problems that he had with Bride Again, and he took it upon himself, to just basically do this on his own. I think that's a really flimsy motive. I don't think that's really going to work. But I mean, I think that's the only avenue they can probably go down and try to say, well, the checks, the communications, they were in the same building. Obviously, it was about that, but it seems like it was so much more.
Well, that is Jesse Weber. He's a legal contributor here. And again, this is a primer on this case that you're going to hear a lot more about. Jesse.
I wonder why I never heard about it.
It's not the first time somebody has pled guilty for a better sentence and testify against who hired him.
Right.
They make it sound like it's the first time someone is he credible. I don't get it.
Well, you never know. I mean, what trials are for.
Right.
Let me see here. There is a new Shanquella Robinson update. The mother speaks to Court TV. So we'll check that out real quick. We'll probably be ending the show in about a half hour. It's just going to be a little short show tonight. Kind of going through some other stuff. It's kind of hard to go through in the other shows. And there is a Nancy Grace thing on here I wanted to check out. So maybe after this, I'll go to that Nancy Grace and check that one out real quick. Maybe, I think I'll save this Delphi one for a Delphi night, because I do have a bunch. I would like to talk some Delphi. I keep talking about it for like the last month.
Right.
Maybe if I do a live tomorrow night, I'll do it about Delphi. Because I might go live after Punksy. I'll be hanging out with Punksy for a while. 5 o'clock Eastern. And then I might go live on my channel after that. I might do some Delphi. We'll see what I'm doing tomorrow night. All right. Court TV. I think this is about wanting Biden to do something. He hadn't even shown up to East Palestine.
While the investigation still has no conclusion, the story of Shanquella Robinson is going all the way to the White House as her family is seeking justice. Shanquella is a native of Charlotte, North Carolina. And you'll recall she traveled to Mexico with 6 other people last October. But less than 24 hours after the group landed, she was found dead. Then a graphic video surfaced of a fight involving Shanquella and another woman inside of a hotel room while on the trip. And Robinson's family was told that the 25-year-old died from alcohol poisoning. But the video shows her being beaten. Then an autopsy was done and revealed later that Shanquella's cause of death was a severe spinal cord injury and a broken neck. So far, nobody has been arrested in this case. But the family's attorneys, Benjamin Crump and Sue Ann Robinson, just penned a letter to President Biden and the Secretary of State asking for swift diplomatic intervention. And they're requesting that the Biden administration either extradite Shanquella's killer to Mexico or have the United States take jurisdiction over the case and do the prosecution here. I want to bring in my guest on the program, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor Sue Ann Robinson, who is representing the Robinson family, and a very special guest. Want to welcome in on the show Shanquella Robinson's mom, Salamandra Robinson. Mrs. Robinson, thank you so much for making time for us this morning. And I just want to start person to person, and certainly on behalf of Court TV Network, our deepest condolences to you and your family on your daughter's death. I know there's nothing that can be said to take the pain away. And with that, my first question to you is, how are you doing today?
I'm okay.
Let's talk a little bit about your daughter first, because certainly her memory is not going to be lost. But for people who didn't have the pleasure of knowing her and won't because her life was cut so tragically short, what do you want people to know most about your daughter?
Yeah, she was a loving person, very smart and intelligent, and loved life.
I saw that she graduated from Winston-Salem State University. I spent some time living in North Carolina. I know what a great school that is. Obviously beautiful, highly intelligent, and really had her whole life ahead of her. And so now with the latest in this case, you have wonderful counsel, as you know, Mrs. Robinson. Sue Ann, who's on the program today, is one of our regular guests on Court TV. We love her here. And Sue Ann, let me go to you with what you're doing here. I have the letter here with me that you and Attorney Benjamin Crump, who you work very closely with, penned to the president, asking for help here, essentially trying to light a fire and get the wheels of justice moving here. There was somewhat of a response. There was a question asked in a press conference the other day. I want to play this clip, and then I want to speak to you about whether this response is satisfactory.
Our hearts go out to Ms. Robinson's family and friends. It is devastating what occurred, and certainly the tragedy is just devastating. And we've been following the news here, but because there's an FBI investigation underway, there's very little that we can say.
Okay, Sue Ann, what was your reaction when you heard that public response?
We're headed in the right direction. This is a case that came from Shanquella Robinson's family essentially charting their own path to justice, because even though we all know that there's victims' rights and that they have the right to be informed on what's happening with the case, they were not being informed on anything. They were being ping-ponged between U.S. authorities and Mexican authorities, and they took it upon themselves to say, you know what? We're going to find the best resources we can in order to get the information to get justice for our daughter. And so that's involved and made the same request on their behalf and got the same kind of ping pong information. And then we decided as a team, you know what, let's just be boots on the ground in Mexico. And I went on a fact-finding mission to Mexico to get answers for this family. And seeing the White House press secretary have to respond to April Ryan's question about the case is a step in the right direction. Obviously, the response wasn't substantive, but for the White House to obviously have the acknowledgement, they've received the information, they know what's going on. That is the strategy, that's the path that we're on, because we need high-level diplomatic intervention in this case. Heads of state have to talk to heads of state. The head of our federal law enforcement agencies have to talk to the head of the Mexican law enforcement agencies in order to move it forward, because this happens to be a case where justice delayed is absolutely going to be justice denied, because every single day, every minute that passes, the evidence is dissipating. The witnesses that are out, their memories are fading, physical evidence is dissipating. So that's what the urgency is in this matter.
It seems like forever ago.
In the letter, we discussed that our clients understand that the United States has many priorities, but obviously transnational criminal cases that involve the death or the murder of United States citizens abroad, we have to show that we won't be.
Exactly, Sue Ann. And it seems that that's part of the problem, right? Because with this incident happening in Mexico, my understanding is Mexican authorities did issue an arrest warrant. But is part of the problem that that person, this is one of Shanquella's travel mates, was the subject of that warrant. Is she back in the United States? Is that the problem, that they can't get her there in Mexico? She's back here, so our authorities may have to get her and take jurisdiction. Do I have that correctly, Sue Ann?
Yeah, she is. She was back.
Right. There has to be communication between the two countries at a very high level in order. order for a U.S. citizen to be handed over to Mexican authorities, or for the U.S. federal law enforcement agencies to say, okay, we're going to be taking over this case, or we would like concurrent jurisdiction so we can do our own investigation in Mexico, an investigation here, and then that would result in the prosecution of the responsible party or parties here in the United States. But that wheel has to get going, that work has to be done, and the ball is in the U.S.
Why has it
authorities'
not
court
been
to get it
happening? That's
going.
what I don't get.
Sure. Mrs. Robinson, let me go to you next, please. The person that's the subject of this warrant, Dejanay Jackson, apparently was also one of the travel mates with your daughter, and it's my understanding that she also brought your daughter's luggage back to your house. What, if anything, did she say that could provide some clues as to what happened to Shanquella?
Well, she didn't bring the luggage back to my house. Khalil Cook brought the luggage back, but she came the next day to tell my family what had happened. And she said it was alcohol poison.
So she's saying alcohol poisoning. But then you get these autopsy results. What do you think happened to your beautiful daughter, Mrs. Robinson?
Well, there's a video out there that what happened to her. Everyone seen the video. The video went viral. It was all, the whole world seen it. So we know what happened.
The beating, as I described her, cruel. It's just awful. My question is why? Do you have any idea why this?
I have no idea. I have no idea. And Quilla was a kind person, a loving person. So I don't know why anyone would do her like that.
Right. Tell me, please, Mrs. Robinson, what do you want to see happen next?
I need someone to be arrested, and I need justice for my family and Shanquella, because it's been 5 months and they out here living their life.
Absolutely. Sue Ann Robinson, tell me, please, what is the next legal move for you and Mr. Crump?
The next legal move is to get a more substantive response on whether or not there's going to be a diplomatic intervention to prioritize the case. Our plan really is not to let it get to the 201st day without some more movement being made on the case, and to just keep the pressure on, because that's the only way to really keep Shanquella's name in the media, in the press. I remember, and I'm sure you do too, Natalie Holloway's case, every single day in the White House press briefings, the question was asked, what's happening on the case, what the White House position on the case, and we just want that same energy for Shanquella Robinson's case. So the case can be, the people who are responsible will be brought to justice.
Thank you so much. As I said earlier, the Robinson family has great.
Wow. No, there hasn't been a first arrest. They had, they issued a warrant a couple months ago, but nothing happened from it. And from what it sounds like, we all thought it was on Mexico's side, but it was actually on the U.S. side, and there's nothing being done about it. And the person, the person who videotaped it was it was supposedly her male best friend. And we watched it just for a split second, not the actual event, because it was blurred and kind of skipped around and stuff, but the Twitter, or what was it? I think it was on Twitter. But we kept playing what the friend was saying, and it was so disgusting. He was like sitting there, you ain't gonna fight back? You ain't gonna fight back? Just egging it on and stuff. And it's like, dude, you're supposed to be her best friend, supposedly.
Exactly.
So that's who's the one that recorded it. Not sure, because I don't know a Susie. I need Jay's to keep that one. That's what I thought. I think Cherry started that one. Yeah, Cherry started the Susie thing. Let's see here.
Yeah, with a friend like that, who needs enemies?
Right? They were all supposedly her friend. That was the thing. All right, so this is this Nancy Grace, Brian Kohberger, obsessed with media coverage of Idaho 4. There's other shorter videos that we'll do when we do an Idaho 4 show, but this one's 26 minutes, and I like Nancy Grace, so we'll kind of hang out, watch this, and then go ahead and end the show for the night. And then I'll put out a notification. I'll probably let you guys know when I'm on Punksy's show, if I'm gonna be streaming tomorrow night. If I do, it might be Delphi, might be Dylan Rounds. Those are two cases I want to cover. I definitely, I really need to get into the I really need to get into the coroner and the pathologist backgrounds of the Stephen Smith case. Maybe that's what I'll do. I'll see what I can find for information tomorrow before Punksy's show. And maybe I'll do that. I really want to check the background, and I really want to see if they were in other court cases. I want to see what their connection is with some other cases, because I bet you that Stephen Smith isn't the only one that they've done this with. And I'm interested to see what other cases are out there that nobody even know about, but now there's connections. So I don't know. We'll see. Delphi, Dylan Rounds, or digging into the coroner pathologist. And I'm thinking it's going to be digging into the coroner pathologist, honestly. But we'll find out. I'll let you guys know when I'm in Punksy's show. We're just going to be chilling, hanging back. Yeah, and then with COVID, speaking of friends and stuff, then with COVID, that doesn't help either. Yeah. All right, we'll see what she says about this. I guess he is obsessed with watching his own coverage. I don't know.
Believe it or not, he probably knows that we're talking about him right now. And I'll tell you why. It has emerged in the last days that Kohberger has his own jail cell with his
SRB.
own TV, including cable, and that he is obsessed with watching any and all coverage about, guess what, himself. That's right. Right now, Brian Kohberger.
Oh, I want to say, speaking of Batismo, throwing this up real quick, there will be a new logo coming out soon. And I've already got requests for some items for it. You know how, like, the t-shirts, I Love New York? There's going to be an I Love CJ logo coming out here in the next day or two, and it'll be up on the Evil CJ merch, whatever. So I'll throw up a coffee cup, because that's how I like to show the new logos that anybody can choose from what they would like when it comes to their own personalized item. And that way you can kind of give me an idea of what logo you're looking for, and then I can put that up there for you. So I'll let everybody know when I get that up there, but I'm going to have to get me a coffee cup. Yeah. It'd be neat. Like a t-shirt too. People are like, what? I was even thinking about making like a bumper sticker for like $3 with the YouTube at Evil CJ. And then people will be driving around and be like, what? Who's that? Well, YouTube it. Putting a little sticker on my window or something. All right, back to Nancy Grace.
Who was charged in the murders of 4 Idaho college students, is probably enjoying finding out that we're talking about him. It almost makes me not want to talk about him. But that said, I want to share with you what all we have learned about Kohberger's life behind bars, including, of course, endless hours of coverage about himself. We know a lot more, but I want to start with that. and joining by a lawyer out of Jacksonville, Florida, and former FBI agent Dale Carl. Thanks for being with us. What do you think about Koberger watching endless hours of coverage about himself?
I'm just stunned that they has free access to the media. Here in Jacksonville, Florida, the inmates in the county jail don't have access to any of that information, television or newspaper. So that was a restriction that was put on in the 1980s. And it just seems unusual because it gives him ideas and access to a great many bits of information, which he might later use in order to defend his innocence, his guilt.
I'm just thinking about what you said. I want to, and I'm going to circle back to everything, all the amenities he has behind bars. I've been to the jail. It's not a big jail, and I understand that they wake the inmates up with soft music. They let them have pizza night on Friday night. I said that to the twins. Hey guys, you want to have pizza night? They're like, yay! Because they don't have to eat broccoli again. We eat it so much it has a pet name, Broggle. But hey, my son is 6'5", so don't knock it till you try it. I've done it all. I call them Martian muffins when they were little because I made it with broccoli and they were green. We have broccoli roasted. We have it stir fried. We had it stir fried last night
What the
with
hell?
golden raisins and cranberries, which my son John David picked around all the raisins and cranberries. I don't know how he's 6'5", but wait, how did I get off on broccoli? Oh yeah,
Right.
Pizza night. How dare they give this guy pizza night? But soft music, wake up. Really? But that said, he also is in his own cell, segregated from other inmates there at Lottie County, and has his own TV and basic cable. An inmate says that he watches himself all the time. That is really kind of bizarre. Okay, I'll get on to him finding the Lord in a moment, but what do you make of him loving every minute of the coverage about himself?
Well, we know from his immediate history that he's a narcissist. He loves talking about himself. He loves thinking of himself as vital and very important. So now he is, thanks to his cable connection to the outside world.
Hold on, you just gave me a thought, and I'll completely forget it in 1 minute. You said his view of himself. I'm going to circle back to the private TV and cable access he has, but that really jarred me when you said that, because when he was killing, according to prosecutors, killing those 4 students, there they were in a very vulnerable position. They had been out that night. Some of them surely had been drinking, having a good time, and they're in bed. The lights are off. It's dimmed. Little do they know, Brian Koberger is going to come in dressed all in black with a face mask on and a sharp knife, fixed blade knife. The power he must have felt over those 4 victims, Dale Carson, is just sick.
Well, it is. I mean, there's little doubt that someone who invests in a knife and breaking into someone's house in the middle of the night in order to slaughter them is something that most of us could never even reasonably consider.
Right.
And that's outside the range of normal human conduct. But this individual, as described by other inmates in the facility, has the look of the fellow who killed other people. So there's this stare that we've heard about at the student union with young ladies looking at him and him looking at them. I mean, there is something evil connected with this individual as based on his own behavior.
That stare is something my daughter saw his picture, and the first thing she said is, "Mom, his eyes look so evil." She hadn't seen a side-by-side of him and Bundy or anything like that. She came and looked over my shoulder, and I was reading an article on my iPad about him, and it had that, it's now everywhere, picture of him in his orange jumpsuit looking, I think he's going into court but he's looking, turns back and looks at the camera. That's the picture she saw. And she's just 15 and it hit her. But back to him watching every minute of coverage, it makes me think of other serial killers such as BTK, Bind, Torture, Kill, Dennis Rader, who actually was communicating with the media. I mean, they're fascinated with themselves.
That's exactly right. Even Bundy, and I've seen some hand-drawn pencil sketches that he made of himself while he looked in a mirror.
Okay, you're getting me off on that again.
Oh, sorry.
About Bundy drawing pictures of himself in his various costumes as he looked into the mirror.
But you were going on about green beans? Whatever.
Okay, so how does this relate back to Kohberger?
Whatever.
How does this relate back to Kohberger or BTK in the fascination with self?
Well, I think they grow up in an environment, and I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but I know enough to know that they grow up in an environment and they're different than everybody else. And that's what sets them apart, sets them in a world of their own. And so it's something that we interviewed a number of serial killers back in the 80s, and all of them had
I bet
similar
SRB.
characteristics.
Yeah, enjoy that.
So
Enjoy your day.
part of that similar characteristic is that
What
they're loners.
characteristics? Don't, build me up just to drop me flat. What?
What? They're loners. They are not engaged with other groups. They tend to be by themselves, and they tend to focus on the evil parts of the world. And violence is something they're interested in. Sexuality is something that they're interested in. All of those things morph into what we today are calling incels. So
Okay,
these are
but
individuals who simply cannot have a
we already heard
legitimate
about all this
relationship
before.
with other humans,
What's it?
particularly of the opposite sex.
So when you say that's short, that's abbreviated for.
Does it show where they
involuntary
start talking about
celibate. In other
him
words,
watching his
a
own
man
coverage?
that
Or?
wants to be with women, but
No
they
idea.
want to be with him for
I mean-
whatever reason. He is not having sex with women. He's not dating, no matter how much he wants to. Of course, the seminal case is out of California, Elliot Rogers, whose father was a famous director, as I recall, and he opens fire on the college campus. And to many of his rants about how much he hates women and why are they with this guy or that guy instead of with him. The way I think about, I look at the way my dad treated my mom whenever she would have a success or some achievement at work or at church or whatever she was doing. He was happy. He was never like jealous or angry. And my husband is the same way. My son, whenever my daughter, Lucy, achieves something, he's like the first one to say, wow, Lucy, that's great. I just find it, I don't understand how an incel grows up with so much hatred toward women, but there had to be hatred toward women in Brian Kohberger's heart if in fact he did this thing. Can I get you out of the weeds, Del Carson, and back in the middle of the road talking about Kohberger's obsession with himself and how the prosecutor can use that at trial?
Well, if he ever decided to testify on the stand, you have to know how it would all happen, right? He would suddenly be angry and full of himself on the stand, and he would lose any benefit with the jury panel that he might have acquired by testifying. That's the way those things occur.
We also know that inside the Loudoun County Jail, the jailers choose what the other inmates watch, probably because it's a group TV, and you don't want the inmates to break out into a fight and stab each other with a shank over whether they're going to watch Martha Stewart or Let's Make a Deal. But not so.
That's why.
Go ahead.
That's why they. That's why they having given access to the internet or at the time cable in the Jacksonville jails, because they would fight over what channel was to be displayed. And here, Kohberger's got his own private delivery service with cable. I mean, it's incredible.
Well, wait a minute.
Why
It's
would
not
you
really
do
that
this?
hard to imagine. If you could see my son, who wants to watch Kung Fu and action, and I'm on his side, don't tell Lucy, and she wants to watch Vampire Diaries, and she wants to watch Gossip Girl and Gilmore Girls. She's all about Rory and where's Rory going to go to college. So, and they have, let me just say, very strident discussions about what's going to be. Well, my husband and I just want to watch a Father Brown and fall asleep. But that said, I can imagine hardened inmates, you know, literally stabbing each other with a homemade shank over whether they're going to watch As the World Turns, or that, is that even still on, or is that off? No, it's not on. Okay. A soap opera or whatever, a talk show. I can definitely see that happening. But my point is, Kohberger has his own TV, and he gets to pick what he watches as opposed to the other inmates. That's not right.
No, it's not. And it does show a favoritism toward his situation, which is he's in custody for slaughtering 4 people.
We also know that he has not asked for mental health counseling, but he has, quote, found God.
I mean, they have to keep him separate. He's a threat to the general population, so it's just because of the circumstance. It has nothing to do with having any kind of fucking favoritism.
Yeah.
You're innocent until proven guilty, so you're afforded all the amenities that every person in that jail is. You just have to be separated from general population because you're a threat to the general population, so therefore that's the only reason why he's got his own TV. It has nothing to do with favoritism. I don't know what this guy's talking about. And I'm just going to go ahead and switch here to some other videos. I'm not really getting too much from that.
Well, I'm probably going to sign out for the night.
Yeah, that's cool. I appreciate you hopping up here. I'm probably going to just watch these couple videos and then end it for the evening as well. And then definitely come hang out with me on Punksy's show tomorrow. And then I'll let you guys know. I might do some research. Yeah, I think I'm going to do some research on the coroner and the pathologist. See what I can find. I think if I do a show, it'll be about that.
Okay. Well, I will catch you tomorrow with Punksy, and then
cool.
If you're on tomorrow night.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Night, SRB. Okay. I'll talk to you later.
Alrighty. Good night.
All right. Night.
Yeah. It was long day, long week too. Long week too. All right, yeah. We do need to I need to figure out that stuff, but I would like to do Delphi as well. I don't know. We'll figure out something. All right, so documents expected to release. What is this about? Then we'll play one more video after this, and then we'll end it for the evening.
So, Richard, am I way off base in saying that they are, in the criminal courts of Idaho, they are trying their best to remain pristine to the gag order principles, but at least try to be transparent as well, which is the American way?
I think you're actually spot on that one. This is a delicate balance that the judges are playing here, and that the Supreme Court's going to be playing in not too long, because of course we have that case going on as well, where they're trying to balance this fair trial versus the public's right to know issue. Because the issue is, what we don't want to do is we don't want to have a jury pool that thinks they've already learned a bunch of stuff about the case, that has already made a decision, that already believes this guy is guilty. You want as neutral a jury pool as possible. In the perfect world, you would, before the case even started, hide them all in a room and just let them wait until it was time for trial and put them up there.
Wait, which perfect world are you talking about? Because when I was in, Iraq, that's what they did. In fact, can I just tell you, I was arrested going into Iraq, and I was thrown in a room for an entire day.
Wow.
And they took my phone, and they wouldn't let, my team contact NBC to let them know that we were safe. And that's the way. And by the way, it wasn't the only time it happened. It happened in Lebanon. It happened in Saudi Arabia. It happened in Iraq. I'd have to go over my files to see if that, but I mean, that was kind of par for the course. And I am really thankful that we just don't do it that way here.
Well, yeah. And we have and this is the, two of our biggest constitutional protections is our free press, right? And of course, as you mentioned, our open jurisprudence system and our jury system, right? And that due process rights and those fair trial rights, and those sometimes come into conflict. And finding that balance is a really difficult thing. For in cases like this, where there is a lot of publicity, that is a tough balance to find. So
it is. Can I ask you though, in your state, have you had a case that has been affected by a gag order in any way, or was affected because it didn't have a gag? Have you got any, tangible evidence that, oh man, we sure messed up on that last one, ain't going to happen again in Idaho?
Mm-hmm. I don't know that there's anything like that I'm aware of, and I'm sure, judges, when they're doing this, we're talking about due process rights, and we're talking about, First Amendment rights. We're talking about, and of course, right to a speedy and public trial, public being part of that, is, again, an important due process right, that it is public. That we're looking nationally at these kinds of issues, because these are big, U.S. constitutional rights, as well as rights in the Idaho Constitution. I think everybody has had a case where they think that there's been too much publicity, and everybody, and that is a worry. And we're also jurors are going to see a guy, in hand and jumpsuit and go, well, that guy's guilty.
Do you know what though? I hear that all the time. I hear the complaints. I hear really mean people who comment on social media. And I just would love to scream back at them. I have 3 words for you: OJ, Casey, Robert Blake. Those are people who were splayed all over the news and they were acquitted. So I feel as though if you're good at your job, and judges typically are, and so are opposing counsel, and they're able to exercise their cause and peremptory strikes, they can pick a jury that can be fair and unbalanced despite what they've seen or heard on the TV or on the soch. Let me ask you one more question though about what I just laid out. All the stuff, I presume you could hear the top of the show where I was telling about all the warrants and the bouncing ball. Does it tell you anything, like the fact that it appeared it was Kaylee who was the target at first, and then it was only Maddie and Brian Koberger on the Tinder accounts, etc.? Do you see a direction here? Do you see where they're going and what they're finding?
I think it's definitely too early to say where they're going and what they're finding. There were a couple of the warrants to Match.com that were where we didn't have a name on them, so we're not sure who they were looking for as well. But I think that it's clear that Kaylee, I think Miss Gonclaves is the last name, is someone who they were looking into. They're trying to see who she's connected to. Right at this point, very early on in the case, they're trying to connect all these little dots because they have, when it first happened, obviously they had so very little information, and they're trying to figure out what happened. So they're looking not only at the social media, of course, the banking records, right? Where did they go? Where did they spend their money? If you follow around a person's debit card purchases, you get a pretty good idea of where they've been through the day.
And they were both, killed first as well. It begs, just reminding people of that as well. Richard, it's really great to have you in Idaho to help us sort of, navigate that every state has very little tweaky differences in their laws and how they, do things. So I appreciate you. Thank you for this, especially on a Friday night.
Thank you for
Yeah. I don't know. All right, now there's a video, something about a camera being on Kohberger at all times. I would imagine so, right?
They are in their own entire room, and they are separated from the other inmates by multiple walls and doors. And there is no other human being in that same lockup area as Brian. So he is not only in isolation in his own cell behind his own bars, but that whole area is vacant of any humanity. So he is truly alone. If he talks, nobody can hear him. But if he yells, like at the top of his voice, it isn't as though the folks who are in those pods or the guards wouldn't be able to hear him. They actually might, like if you're in your house and you're in the bottom floor and you yell up to the master bedroom on the far side of the house, somebody might be able to hear you yell, but you sure aren't having a conversation with them. And that is how this has been described to me. So he is so solitary, he can talk all he wants and no one can hear him, but there is a camera trained on him at all times. This is what my sources told me. And that the suicide watch that he was on when he got there only lasted for a couple of days. He is not on suicide watch now, but he is checked regularly. And do you remember the clothing? That right there, that green, I describe it like a moving quilted blanket. They wrap it around your piano and your other precious things, your furniture. That's what that stuff's made out of, because you can't tie it in a knot and hang yourself. So that's called a suicide vest. They don't have that. At the Latah County lockup, they don't have it. That was what he got in Pennsylvania. And if he arrived in anything like that, it was because he was wearing it in Pennsylvania, got on the plane, and he's not wearing it now. He, I'm told, is wearing the exact same thing as every other inmate in that lockup. Jail garb. That's it. Same as the other inmates. No different. Pretty interesting stuff. Okay, so security. Super interesting that if you think about transporting him to trial, we always imagine that somebody who's this high, profile and despised, right? Despised globally. If you just look at some of the writings about this guy, that's dangerous. Transporting him like this is dangerous. They'll often put you in a flak vest, but there will be no need for that. When Brian Kohberger is going to make his court appearances, he's not going outside. There will be no van. He literally will be taken upstairs to the courthouse and then right back downstairs to his max security lonely cell. So what you see basically is what you get. There will be no danger in the outside community. And anybody who comes inside that courthouse goes through magnetometers and will not have any kind of dangerous stuff on their person. Okay, checking my list, got everything there. Yes, all right. So now I want to move on to the court documents, because one of the reasons that we're so interested in what the document dump is going to be like is because we took a really deep dive through last week's document dump to look at the timeline, because they didn't just throw a whole bunch of warrants out there on the very same day and then wait for everything to come back. The bouncing ball is actually kind of intriguing. Warrants were issued, and when material came back from the subpoenas, new warrants were sent out. So basically the investigation from the first set of warrants set them on a trail, kind of like a treasure hunt. And that sent them to new places to look for and to subpoena. And the subpoenas started right after the murders, right? November 13th, the murders, but those subpoenas were going out in January too. So based on what they got early from the early warrants, they were able to figure out, a new vein to mine, and they would go off. And so I want to go through some of them with you, because you might start seeing interesting patterns and definitely where their head was at and who they thought the target was. So let's just start Well, you already know that warrants went out and we got them about the WSU apartment of Brian Kohberger, his parents' home, his car, and his person. They gave us a lot of that redacted, right? That came out early. But now all those major companies that were subpoenaed that came out last week, like Amazon and Tinder and DoorDash
Wow.
and Snapchat and Walmart, a lot of it came back and it was really redacted, 750 pages, which is why I've got a team in place if it happens again to try to read as many as we can within this hour. But the 750 pages were redacted, but this is what we could figure out. It was not just Brian Kohberger that they were investigating. Some of the earliest warrants that went out were actually for the victims and what their lives were like. So they went after PayPal, Venmo, and Square accounts on November 19th. That's just 6 days after the murders, right? They also went after banking records of the 4 victims, and that was November 28th. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnation.com to find News Nation on...
Damn, cut that off quick. I was waiting to hear some more, but I thought there was going to be more information. I suppose not. I didn't see another video to that, so I don't know what's up with that. All right, everybody. Well, let me throw out Punksy's show here real quick. Let me see here. Let me throw the link in chat. Come hang out with me, 5 o'clock Eastern tomorrow. And I will go to the link for the show so you can actually get the notification set. All right, there's a link to the show. Come hang out with me tomorrow if you'd like, if you're not busy. Enjoy your shop in SRB. Everybody have a peaceful and positive evening, and I'll know by when I'm on Punksy Show if I'm going live, so I think I might go live tomorrow night. I think we're going to... I'd really like to try and dig into either Delphi or the coroner and pathologist, but I'm thinking coroner and pathologist. Good night, everybody. I appreciate you. Thanks for the chill back evening. I'll see you guys tomorrow.